Today, we'll be looking at the 2022 Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum entrance. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to another video. 36 charter cars will be attempting to make the event, and only 23 of those cars will be able to race in the event. There'll be heat races throughout the event. Here are the 36 drivers that will be attempting to compete in this year's Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum. Starting off in the one car, we're going to have Ross Chastain driving the one car for this event in 2022. Ross Chastain will be starting off fresh after driving for Chip Ganassi Racing throughout the 2021 season. We're going to see Ross Chastain move over to Trackhouse Racing, which Chip Ganassi Racing was bought up by Trackhouse Racing for their Cup Series program. Ross Chastain will have Phil Sturgeon in 2022 for this event. I think Ross Chastain is someone going to be watched throughout the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season. I think he's an underdog to make the playoffs, and he'll be looking to make the event. I think he's got a pretty decent shot. He was really good at some short tracks like Richmond and Darlington, which probably is going to be very similar to that. So Ross Chastain is someone to keep your eyes on. He'll be someone that is very fast throughout the Busch Light Clash. The next entry we're going to talk about is a two-car for Team Penske. Austin Hendrick will be jumping up to the Cup Series on a full-time basis to drive the two-car. His crew chief will be Jeremy Bowles, who was Brad Keselowski's crew chief in 2021. He'll be working, like I said, with Jeremy Bowles this season. Austin Hendrick is a driver. While he will be a rookie, he made 7 Cup Series starts in 2021 with only 1 top 10, but he had a lot of pace and a lot of speed. On top of that, for Austin Cindric, he is a driver that has been really strong in Xfinity, where he won the 2020 NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship, and I think he's got a really good chance to make it to the main of the event. So Austin Cindric is one to keep your eyes on, so I think he's going to be very fast through this year's Busch Light Clash. Next entry we're going to talk about is a 3-car for Richard Childress Racing. Austin will be back in the 3-car in 2022. I believe that Justin Alexander will be crew chief for him once again in 2022 as well. Austin Hill is a driver that is very underrated. Last year, despite barely missing the playoffs last year, he had his best average finish of his NASCAR Cup Series career in a season, and quite a few top 10s as well. Austin Hill has been able to attempt to qualify and has actually made it to the Busch Light Clash in the past, but it was, of course, he'll be on a new configuration and a new racetrack. I think Austin Hill is someone to keep your eyes on. To potentially could be an underdog. I think he's got a really strong chance to make the main here in 2022. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 4-car for Stewart-Haas Racing. No surprises here. Kevin Harvick will be in the 4-car in 2022. As Kevin Harvick's nearing the end of his career, last year in 2021, Kevin Harvick went winless. But Kevin Harvick will be looking to turn that around and start off the year strong by winning the exhibition race at the Los Angeles Coliseum. I think Kevin Harvick's one to keep your eyes on. I think he will absolutely make it to the event. Of course, he does cause some tempers on the track, which is very possible. But I think that Kevin Harvick won't really have any problems with that. I think he's going to be really fast, and I think that Kevin Harvick will be easily able to lock his way into the race of the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 5-car for Hendrick Motorsports. No surprise here, the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Larson will be racing in this event, and he is the only driver that is guaranteed to make it to the event due to the fact that he's a past series champion and will be able to lock in regardless of how he does in the heat races. Kyle Larson, like I said, no doubt won 10 races last year in 2021 with, of course, Cliff Daniels as his crew chief and Tyler Mond as his spotter. Kyle Larson will be looking to start off the year fresh by picking up where basically he left off after winning the championship at Phoenix. Kyle Larson will be able to looking to ride off and come off and win his first, technically, even though it won't be an official win, he'll be looking to try to win his first race, technically, of 2022. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 6-car for RFK Racing. As you can guess, Brad Keselowski will be driving the 6-car full-time in 2022. After driving for Team Penske since 2010 in the NASCAR Cup Series, he will be driving this for moving over to RFK Racing as a co-owner/driver of the organization. Brad Keselowski is someone I think that could be very underrated this year. He will this year have Matt McCall, who was Kurt Busch's crew chief last year in 2021, and will also bring over TJ Majors as his spotter. Brad Keselowski, like I mentioned, is a driver that I think that will easily be able to make it into the main event, considering he was really strong last year on 750 horsepower events. I think throughout the year, Brad Keselowski could surprise and get a victory this year, so we'll have to wait and see what happens, but Brad Keselowski is moving over to the 6 in 2022. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 7-car for Spire Motorsports. No surprises here. Corey LaJoie will be into the 7 car once again in 2022. The year last year for Corey LaJoie was very, very quiet at the beginning, but as the year progressed for Corey LaJoie, he got much, much stronger, and he is one driver that can do really, really good at short tracks. You look at his stats at Bristol and look at his stats at Martinsville, he is very, very good, and I think one to really keep your eyes on for this weekend to make it to the show. He is an underdog for the event, and Corey LaJoie, I think that this year working with Ryan Sparks once again, I think he could have a really, really strong year with this team heading into 2022. Keep your eyes on Corey LaJoie heading into the season. The next team and driver we're going to talk about is A car for Richard Childress Racing. Tyler Reddick will be back in the A car this year. I'm not sure what sponsor will be for this year because he's going to have much different sponsors, but Tyler Reddick will be back in the A car this year. Tyler Reddick really kind of had a little bit of a breakout year. Despite not winning a race, he was very, very consistent in his sophomore year. And I think that Tyler Reddick, of anybody on this list, is someone that I think is really going to gel with the next-gen car. And I think that they will start this weekend, well, next weekend, excuse me, at the Busch Light Clash. I think that he's someone who's really going to have a lot of pace in this event, and I think that he will be one to keep your eyes on throughout 2020 season, including this event. I think he easily makes the show, and I think that he could have a big breakout year in 2022. The next entry you're going to talk about is a 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports. No surprises here, Chase Elliott will be back in the 9 car in 2022. Last year in the Clash at Daytona Road Course, Chase Elliott was very, very close to winning the event, but unfortunately he and Ryan Blaney got into a battle at the last lap where Chase Elliott tried to send it and they basically took each other out. Well, Chase came through and Ryan Blaney spun out and Kyle Busch stole the victory. Chase Elliott is a very, very good short track racer and one that I think, especially in this event, you're going to have to keep your eyes on because he's been historically really, really strong at short tracks throughout his career. He's gotten wins in Martinsville, was really, really fast in Martinsville before unfortunately falling off at the end of the race. But I think that Chase Elliott will be very, very fast and one to keep your eyes on. While he works at Alan Gustafson and Eddie DeHaan once again. The next entry you're going to talk about is the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. No surprises here. Eric Almirola will be back in the 10 car in 2022. But this will be his final season in 2022 in the NASCAR Cup Series on a full-time basis as he'll go to retirement at the conclusion of this season. There's also some personnel changes for Eric Almirola as he'll have Drew Blickensurfer as his crew chief this year instead of Mike Bugger Ravitz, who will be working as basically like technical support for the team this year and going into one of the higher up positions. Eric Almirola's season last year was absolutely a struggle, and he'll be looking in 2022 hopefully rejuvenate himself and have a much better year than he had in 2021. Despite winning a race, he had surely struggled throughout the year, so hopefully he can turn this season around heading into 2022. The next entry we're going to talk about is the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Denny Hamlin will be back in the 11 car. He signed a multi-year contract early last year and will basically be at the team for the rest of his NASCAR Cup Series career. Denny Hamlin is coming off a very, very strong year where while he only got 2 victories, he was extremely consistent, had a better average finish than the champion Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin just had a few races which unfortunately cost him and his car wasn't as good at Phoenix. But I think that Denny Hamlin is someone that really could start this year off guns blazing. Denny Hamlin is someone that has been very, very fast throughout his career, especially on short tracks. I think he's one of the most underrated short track drivers on the NASCAR circuit, and I think that Denny Hamlin will have a lot of pace and a lot of speed and will be somewhat of a contender in this year's Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum. The next entry you're going to talk about is the 12 car for Team Penske. Ryan Blaney will once again be in the 12 car. He'll be with Team Penske, I believe, through the 2023 season. Ryan Blaney's 2021 season, he had his big breakout year where he scored 3 victories. Yes, he didn't dominate those races, but he was extremely consistent throughout the season. And I think that Ryan Blaney is someone that I think could have another big year. Now, he's going to have a new crew chief this year as he'll be working with Jonathan Hassler heading into 2022. Now, of course, hopefully that crew chief can really help out Ryan Blaney have a really, really strong year this year. They'll be looking to get the year started off and get the year rolling, and hopefully Ryan Blaney can have a big year this year and kick it off by trying to basically rejuvenate himself and get a redemption after crashing on the last lap of the Busch Light Clash last year. The next entry you're going to talk about is a 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. Chase Briscoe will be back in this 14 car this year. This will be his second full-time season, so he'll be looking to either have a sophomore upbringing or will potentially have a sophomore slump. Chase Briscoe is a driver that I think is a really, really good race car driver. It's just like I said last year, SHR really, really struggled. And he'll be looking to this year with Johnny Klossmeyer being back, working with him this year. They'll be looking to have a much better year heading into 2022. Chase Briscoe is someone that I think was a little bit struggling on short tracks. I wouldn't put it that he will make the event this year. I think he's unlikely to make it, but he has surprised me before and has done very, very well. So hopefully Chase Briscoe can come into the car this year and can do very, very well with this team. And hopefully he can make it to the main show heading into 2022. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 15 car for Rick Ware Racing. Ryan Preece will be in this car this year in 2022 for the Busch Light class. Ryan Preece is a really good short track racer. In the NASCAR Xfinity Series, he won his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Iowa, and then in 2018 with Joe Gibbs Racing, he won his second career race at Bristol Motor Speedway. When I think of Ryan Preece, when I think of short track guys, he's someone that is really good on short tracks, and a lot of that comes from his modified experience. And I think that Ryan Preece, honestly and sincerely, has a very strong chance to be an underdog to potentially make the event. Considering Rick Ware Racing is getting some upgrades this year, I think that Ryan Preece could have a very big year and could start this year off by making it to the main event for the Busch Light Clash. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 16 car for Kaulig Racing. AJ Allmendinger will be in this car throughout this year. He'll drive this car for 16 races here, and his first race of 16 will begin by driving in the Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum. AJ Allmendinger, when I think about him on short tracks, he was really good last year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and is also a very good short track racer. You look up his stats at tracks like Bristol and Martinsville, he has done very well, and I think this track is going to race very similar to that. Of course, it's like a Bowman Gray style track, which a lot of drivers have not raced at before, but I think that experience AJ has from being really good on short tracks, I think is going to come into play, and I think that he will have a really good chance to contend. I think he actually will make the main race. I think especially with how Kaulig's team is set up for this year, with Matt Swiderski being the crew chief this year, I think he could have a really strong year and start this off by getting him into the main event in 2022. The next entry to talk about is a 17 car for RFK Racing. Chris Buescher will be back in the 17 car for at least a couple years, I think through 2024, 2025, and he'll continue with driving a 17 car this year. Chris Buescher had an up and down year last year. I think last year was probably his best season he's had in the NASCAR Cup Series, where he barely just missed the playoffs last year and was a playoff contender throughout the entire season. When I think of Chris Buescher, he's also a driver that I think is really good on short tracks, at tracks like Richmond and Bristol. He's been really good at those tracks, and I think that Chris Buescher has a really good shot to make the race, especially since he's going to have Brad Keselowski work with him as his co-owner of the team, and I think Brad is going to bring a lot of insight to the RFK group, so I think that he's got a really strong chance to make the overall event. The next entry we're going to talk about is the 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Kyle Busch will be back in the 18 car once again in 2022, but this will be the last year that M&M's is going to be the sponsor on his car in the NASCAR Cup Series. On top of that, for Kyle Busch, he will not have Ben Bayshore as a crew chief. I don't think the crew chief has been announced. He will be working with Kyle Busch for the Busch Light Clash next week. But Kyle Busch will not have his regular crew chief due to London suspensions after Phoenix. Kyle Busch will definitely be looking to trying to get the year started off on a much better note. He's a really good short track racer and a guy that's won a lot. So I think that Kyle Busch will be very fast throughout the entire weekend. Keep your eyes peeled on Kyle Busch, as I think he's one that could have a really good start to the year and could be a good chance to win and start the year right. The next entry you're going to talk about is a 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. No surprises here. Mark Truex Jr. will be back in the 19 car in 2022. Now, contract is unknown how long Mark Truex Jr. will be in the car this year. I would think that he probably at least has a year or maybe 2 more years with this team. Now, when I think about Mark Truex Jr., great short track racer. He's won a lot of short track races. He used to be really bad at them, but over the years, he's done really great at them. You look especially at stats at Martinsville, he's done extremely well there. And I think that Mark Truex Jr. definitely, along with some of these other drivers I mentioned, I think he's going to be in a really good threat to win this year's Busch Light Clash. So I think that Mark Truex Jr. will have a very good year, and I think that he will be a very big contender as he looks to try to start the year off. And I don't think he's going to be as good this year, but he'll be looking to start the year off on a much better foot than he did last year. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. No surprises here. Cristobal will be back in the 20 car in 2022. Cristobal in 2021 had a hot and cold season. Cristobal did score 1 victory and picked up his first career victory at the Daytona Road Course. But really, other than that, Cristobal's season was kind of a really big struggle on pace and on speed. He did have, like I said, really good moments like New Hampshire, Richmond, which of course he was really good at short tracks last year. So hopefully that short track pace can really improve, and hopefully that consistency with once again working with Adam Stevens, hopefully that consistency can really come into play, and I really hope that this can help Cristobal start off the year on a really good foot heading into 2022. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 21 car for Wood Brothers. There's a change coming to this team in 2022. as Harrison Byrne will be driving his car as a rookie in the Cup Series in 2022. I don't know exactly which sponsor will sponsor him. I would think that Dex Imaging is the most likely that will sponsor him for this event. Harrison Byrne had a pretty decent rookie year last year. Not a rookie year in Xfinity. He had a pretty decent sophomore year in Xfinity. He did not win a race, but he was pretty consistent and was able to make it to the round of 8. Harrison Byrne, while I don't think he's going to be a guy that will make the overall event, I think he could be a driver that is really, really good on short tracks this year throughout the season, considering Woodburst puts a lot of their aces into their short track program. So hopefully Harrison Byrne can do well. Of course, I believe he'll be working this year. I don't remember who his spotter is going to be. I think it's going to be Tyler Green as a spotter this year, and he will, of course, have Brian Wilson this year. So hopefully that can really, really help out him throughout the year. The next entry we're going to talk about is the 22 car for Team Penske. Joey Logano will be back in the 22 car this year, as we'll be trying to start off the year by trying to chase for his second ever Busch Light Clash victory. Joey Logano won this event in 2017 and be looking to start this year off on a right foot after only scoring one victory, but he was able to make it to the round of 8. What Joey Logano will be trying to do is make sure that he can have a good enough year in 2022 and start winning multiple races once again, like he did in 2020. No major changes are happening with Joey Logano heading into the season, so hopefully with this team staying intact, they can improve throughout 2022 and start the year up on a right foot. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 23 car for 2311 Racing. No surprises here. Bubba Wallace will be back in the number 23 car this year in 2022. Now, Bubba Wallace is going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage at the start of this year. He will be testing an next-gen car throughout this week, which by the time you're probably watching this, the next-gen test is currently going on at the moment. But Bubba Wallace has really not had a lot of time next-gen testing. That being said, though, Bubba Wallace is going to have a big advantage this year, as he's going to have a new teammate this year who is a legend that we'll get into here just a little bit. But Bubba Wallace, when I think about him, he's really awesome at short tracks. He's been really good at tracks at Martinsville. He's been pretty good at Bristol. And Booty Barker and him working together this year could be a really big asset to the team. So I think that Bubba Wallace will be one to watch and maybe an underdog to overall make the event for the main event. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports. William Byron will be back in the 24 car in 2022 as he'll be trying to chase potentially his first ever shot of winning a championship in the NASCAR Cup Series. William Byron, of course, will have a new spotter this year. Brendan Lyons was Brian Priest's spotter last year in the Cup Series. He will be William Byron's spotter in 2022 throughout the season. William Byron is someone I think that's going to be very underrated. He's been really good at short tracks, especially in the early portions of his career. And I think that's really going to come into play, the short track ace. So I think that William Byron will be one to keep your eyes on for sure, as he'll be looking, of course, he and Rudy Fiegel's relationship. They had a great year last year, and they'll be looking to start the year and continue the year off on a really, really good foot. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 31 car for Colleague Racing. Justin Haley will be jumping up to the Cup Series on a full-time basis this year, and we'll have Trent Owens as a crew chief. Now, Justin Haley is not eligible for the Rookie of the Year this season due to the fact that Justin Haley did not run most of the year last year, ran 31 races, and only basically has 36 races in his NASCAR Cup Series career that he's ran so far. So that's why he's not eligible for the Rookie of the Year, because he's ran a lot of races so far. Now, Justin Haley, when I think of him, I don't think he's going to be as good at the short tracks as he is on the super speedway tracks. That being said, though, I think that Trent Owens is a overall very, very solid crew chief, and I think that Trent Owens is going to be able to overall help him out throughout this year, and hopefully he can help Justin Haley out as he tries to go and try to be an underdog to make the playoffs in 2022. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 34 car for Bubba Motorsports. No surprises here. Michael McDowell will be back in the 34 car this year in 2022. But there are some changes coming to the 34 car in 2022, as Mark Chichen's former engineer Blake Harris will be the crew chief for Michael McDowell in 2022, as Drew Blickenserver goes over to work with Eric Almirola in 2022. Michael McDowell's 2021 season was very, very strong. He was really, really good throughout the 2021 season. He'll be looking to have another one of those big, big seasons heading into 2022 as well, looking to improve on that and have a great year. So hopefully Michael McDowell can improve on those statistics, as he'll have a new crew chief. Hopefully they can all gel and do very well here in 2022. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 38 car for Front Row Motorsports. Todd Gillen will be jumping up all the way from the Truck Series and will be going into the Cup Series as a Cup Series rookie. Makes a lot of sense considering Todd Gillen is the son of David Gillen, who basically their Truck Series program. They have worked with the DGR Racing Organization to get a lot of their parts and pieces, and of course Luz, which does some of their Cup Series program for the 38 team. They also sponsor Todd Gillen in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Todd Gillen is a really, really good Truck Series racer. I'm not sure how he's going to do as a rookie in the Cup Series this year. That being said, though, I think that Todd Gillen could have a very good rookie year. I think he will be the best rookie that Front Row has had so far, and hopefully their year can start off really, really good and make the actual clash. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 41 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. No surprises here. Cole Custer will be back in the 41 car heading into 2022. Cole Custer has really struggled for the first 2 years of his NASCAR Cup Series career. Despite the fact that he does have a win in Kentucky in his rookie season, he got the Rookie of the Year honors, he has really, really struggled ever since then. And he's going to be trying to look at potentially trying to turn that around and get some better performances. And he really needs to start doing that this season. I think that this year is going to really be a make or break year for Cole Custer on if he is going to be considered a bust or not. I do think with the practice qualifying coming back this year, basically throughout every single race, I think that will overall help out Cole Custer's opportunity to improve. Hopefully Cole Custer can do that. He's got a really good crew chief that he's working with, so hopefully he can do really, really well and get some good runs this year and do great in 2022 and improve. And hopefully we'll start by him making the clash this year. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 42 car for the new Petty GMS Motorsports. That's right, Richard Petty Motorsports and GMS Racing are going to basically merge this year, and they will have 2 cars this year. The 42 car will be driven by Ty Dillon this season. Chip Dougherty, who is the engineer for Chip Ganassi Racing's number 42 car, so a little bit of relevance with the number. He will be the crew chief for Ty Dillon heading into this season. Now, Ty Dillon, of course, is a driver that's been a little bit a driver that's gotten a lot of hate due to the fact that he is the grandson of Richard Childress, and he's a driver a lot of people think he hasn't really earned his ride. But last year, he proved to me that he's got something behind the wheel. And again, to be fair to him, he drove for basically not such a good organization at Germain Racing, a team that really did not have a lot of good things going for them near the end of their time. Ty Dillon will be looking to have a big year with GMS Racing. I don't think he's going to make the playoffs this year. And there, of course, are playoff bands coming, which we'll talk about later this week. But hopefully Ty Dillon can improve on his performance, and hopefully he can have a big year as he tries to rejuvenate his NASCAR career currently at the moment. The next entry in Taba is a 43 car for Petty GMS Motorsports. No surprises here. Eric Jones will be back in the 43 car next year in 2022. But there are changes for Eric Jones this year, as Dave Ellens will be in this 43 car as his crew chief for 2022. Eric Jones is a driver that had some pretty decent moments last year. He did have a better points finish, I think, than Bubba Wallace last year, and more top 10s throughout the season. Like I said, a better average finish. Eric Jones, I think, is a very, very underrated driver and someone that I think in 2022 could really, really be one of those drivers that gels with the next-gen car. There are points where this team, I think, will be very, very fast. I think that this team overall, including Ty Dillon, they are going to perform better than they would have just being Richard Petty Motorsports. So I think Eric Jones is one to watch throughout the year, see if he can perform and do better. I think he's going to have a chance to do that, and hopefully Eric Jones can come out the season and have a great year heading into 2022 with having a good run at the Busch Light Clash. The next entry we're talking about is a 45 car for 2311 Racing. Kurt Busch is jumping all the way over from Chip Ganassi Racing, and he will be driving the illustrious 45 for 2311 Racing heading into this season. This year, he will have Billy Scott as his crew chief, and this year he will also have Jason Jarrett as his spotter. Kurt Busch is a legend of NASCAR, one of the most underrated drivers in NASCAR history. He is 2004 NASCAR Cup Series champion. It doesn't matter what team he goes into. If he goes into a new team, he's either going to be winning or very, very close to winning. It doesn't matter. I mean, he almost took a Phoenix racing car and literally won at Sonoma. That was extremely impressive and had some really strong runs of Furniture Racing. He was one of the archive people who really helped out this overall team at the beginning, helped really build Furniture Racing toward their future. Kurt Busch is someone I think that's going to be a massive asset to this team, and I think that he will be someone to really watch for the overall victory in this event. I think that he will easily make it to the main, and I think that especially with how good Kurt is on short tracks, I think he'll have a very strong chance of making the overall event. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 47 car for JTG Doherty Racing. No surprises here. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will be back in the 47 car. in 2022. But there are some changes coming for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as he will have a new spotter heading into 2022. As Tab Boyd, who was the spotter for William Byron last year, is moving over to work with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. this season. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I think, is a decent racer. I think that Ricky Stenhouse Jr., of course, a two-time NASCAR Xfinity Series champion and a two-time NASCAR Cup Series winner. I know that we call him Ricky Stenhouse, but Ricky Stenhouse Jr. can do some really good things, especially in some underfunded equipment. So hopefully going into this year that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. can have a really, really big year, and hopefully can start off, of course, as a new spotter, and hopefully JT Doherty Racing can be one of those teams with a new next-gen placement, new next-gen stuff, can do very well heading into this season. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports. No surprises here. Alex Bowman will be driving his 48 car in 2022. Once again, he's got a contract right now that goes through 2023, but I would think Rick Hendrick would like to have him here for a lot longer. Alex Bowman last year has his big breakout year, scoring 4 victories, but he was extremely inconsistent throughout the season. So that's one thing Alex Bowman's going to have to work on this year, is that consistency. Alex Bowman has been hot or cold on the short tracks, but I think with the Hendrick power, I think he's going to have a very strong chance to compete for the overall victory and be able to lock his way into the overall event. He's got the same crew he's working, so hopefully that can help. He'll also be sporting a white-looking car instead of the traditional purple that they've had. He'll be supporting white on the car this year, so hopefully he can do really good this year, and hopefully he can start off by having a very strong run in the Busch Light Clash. The next entry we're going to talk about is a 51 car for Rick Ware Racing. This should really not surprise anybody. Cody Ware will be driving a 51 car on a full-time basis heading into 2022. Cody Ware had a hit or miss year last year in the NASCAR Cup Series, but I don't think Cody Ware is overall a very, very bad driver. I think he's a very decent driver, and especially with the upgrades, if you give him a decent car, he can perform very, very well. I mean, I looked up some of the statistics with SS Greenlight Racing. He did pretty well with that organization about a year or two ago. So don't really count out Cody Ware being an underdog this year, because he could be a very big surprise. I think he's going for the full season points this year, so hopefully he can do really well. This won't be for points for the Clash, so hopefully he can do really, really well and start off the season on the right footing. The next entry we're going to talk about is a number 77 for Spire Motorsports. Landon Castle will be driving this car on a part-time basis this year, and he'll start the season off with this team, and he'll probably run the first 2 races, including the Daytona 500 as well. But Landon Castle will drive the 77 for Spire Motorsports in this event. Landon Castle, of course, is going full-time at College Racing, which is absolutely deserved. I don't think sponsorship has been announced for this race that he's going to run, but I would presume that Voyager is going to sponsor him for this event, since they're basically footing the bill to sponsor Landon Castle. And, of course, Landon Castle is a Spire client, so it makes a ton of sense. Overall, Landon Castle is going to be really underrated, and I think that one could surprise and make it to the overall show. The next entry we're going to talk about is a number 78 for Live Fast Motorsports. No surprise here, BJ McLeod will be in the 78 car for Live Fast Motorsports in a majority of races this year, including this event. BJ McLeod is a really, really good short track racer. I mean, he's not going to probably contend for the overall victory. He's probably not going to make the overall event, let's be honest. But I think that BJ McLeod is someone that is going to be very, very fast at points this year. I think Live Fast Motorsports will be a much better team this year. I think they're going to, instead of being a top 35 to 40 range, I think they're going to be around a 30th to 35 range. So they're going to improve this year, especially with potentially other driver lineups to get throughout the year. So keep your eyes on BJ McLeod and the 78 Live Fast Motorsports as they try to lock their way into the Busch Clash. And the final entry heading into this event is the 99 for Trackhouse Racing. No surprises here. Daniel Soares will be in the 99 for Trackhouse Racing heading into this season. Daniel Soares is a driver that had a lot of really strong moments, but unfortunately in 2021, he did end up finishing 25th in the points. That being said, though, there were points where this team really showed a lot of progress and a lot of performance, and that's one thing that this team, especially with going to 2 cars this year, that's one thing that they're going to have to look for, because they got to look for being more consistent. Like I said, despite the fact that they did have some good performances, and including that Bristol Dirt event, they did finish 25th in the points. So one thing that they're going to be looking at to try to improve this upcoming season is trying to have a chance of competing and doing better. So hopefully they can do that and show a little more speed heading into this year, and hopefully by that they can make it into the main event. So those are all the entries that are going to be competing for the Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notification on to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. List description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about the entries, and tell me who you think is going to win, who's going to make it to the show, the 23 drivers who make it, and tell me who you think is overall going to win. Let me know in the comments below. We are very, very close to the start of the NASCAR season. We're only 12 days, as a matter of fact, from officially starting the season. I cannot wait to start the season with the Busch Light Clash. I'm going to have a lot more to discuss this week about some news stories that have been coming in the last few days. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.